Welcome back to the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you're definitely in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring that bell so you don't miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Folks, I would like to welcome to the show a buddy of mine from the long shot with the Graxtons, my friend T. Graxton. He's a Michigan State guy, so everybody be nice to him. Welcome to the show, T. Are you with us? Oh, looks like he's frozen there a little bit. Oh no, you're back. You're back. What's up, man? How you doing? I think we got your mic. You got your mic muted.
I'm off there. Sorry about that. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing good, man. Longest intro ever. Hey, DB, thanks for coming in, man. Hey, fellas, I was just trying to get ready on that. Sorry about that. So, listen, guys, I lost him again. Lost you there again, bro. You back?
There we go. Yeah, we're in there. I'm not sure what's going on there. Yeah, I paid the Wi-Fi bill, so should be good.
Right. We may end up having Couz come on here from Couz's Corner as well here in just a little bit, talking about because tonight we are going to be. Well, I'll just put it to you this way: there is a couple of big Pac-12 conference schools that want nothing to do with streaming, and there's a conference commissioner that is trying to push streaming, and I think that that's going to turn into, for the rest of these Big 12 folks, something that is going to help out because you're going to get an influx of Pac-12 members now in the Big 12. A year ago, it looked like the Big 12 was dead meat. All of a sudden, you get, obviously Brett Yormark coming in, and he is just basically having this guy look like a freaking amateur in the whole thing, right? Tell me what you think about all this stuff with all this realignment and everything and what it looks like to you.
Well, I'll tell you this. I see everything the way you're seeing it. Like last year, when Texas and Oklahoma took off for the Big 12,
yeah,
it looked like the Big 12 was dead in the water.
Oh,
but
man.
Then when Brett Yormark comes into the scene and he basically saved the day. Got UC in there, BYU, Central Florida, Houston, got the 12, check. Got Texas, Oklahoma, bought out a year early, check. Got a TV deal done, check. He's been hitting it home runs, and he got the Big 12 on stable ground. Meanwhile, when you're looking at the Pac-12, I mean, for the last several years, it's been looking like amateur hour.
Right. No doubt. And that's the whole thing that I keep saying is like, it really, I mean, listen, the Big 12 knows all about having an amateur for a freaking commissioner because they've had one for basically the last 20 years. They had Dan Beebe and then he got replaced by Bob Bowlesby. Both of them were terrible. And I got to tell you that when you start thinking about it, everything that had to go wrong did go wrong. They had every way to completely kill the rest of the Big 12. You had 4 schools that were ready to go to the Pac-12. They looked down their nose at it, don't want to invite them. We're talking about Power 5 teams. Now they're having to struggle to get Group of 5 teams like SMU and San Diego State to come in there just so that they can try to bump up their revenue. It's just not going to happen, man. It's just not going to happen. And you're right, BV. It's going to implode. It's already seems to be happening, and he keeps trying to shove this streaming stuff down their throat. And Washington and Oregon, they're not having it at all.
No.
And so everything I'm hearing is that there's some back channel discussions, things like that going on with Brett Yormark. And I don't know exactly how it's going to all come about, but I would say that you probably at least get Oregon and Washington for a little bit. I would go ahead and add as many as you can anyway. Is in my opinion, go ahead and get that 4 corner schools going. You definitely want to get Coach Prime and the boys in there. You definitely want to. I mean, even though Bobby was talking about Utah throwing all that shade, but I tell you what, they need them in there too, and then the Arizona schools. But I would definitely get as many as you can. Obviously, Stanford and Cal aren't coming, but
Right. I mean, I agree with you. I would definitely target the 6, Oregon, Washington, for
yeah,
however long you can get them. I know there's some folks who think that uh, that shouldn't happen, that Oregon and Washington don't want to do a short-term deal with the
right.
Big 12. But at this moment in time, these guys need a life raft. And I just see it as a situation where, you know, the ratings for Oregon and Washington on TV, they're running 1 million viewers. Oregon and Washington are. So you take them for however long you need to take them, just as a bargaining chip, as an olive branch to get those 4 corners in there. And then you give Oregon, Washington.
Yeah, and and I think that's what you're saying. I get where you're going with it. Is that
Colin.
go ahead? You kind of you broke up there. You said after you get those 2, you do what after that?
After you get Oregon and Washington on a short-term deal, let them get a light buyout if the Big Ten does want them. But you use the Oregon and Washington situation to get the 4 corners. Because if Oregon and Washington leave, you don't have a Pac-12 any way, shape, or form. So get them in there on a short-term deal. The 4 corners will follow them. You lock the 4 corners in. Give Oregon and Washington a short-term deal. And if Big Ten wants them at any point in time during the 6-year deal, you let them go. Let them get a light buyout. You got the 4 corners. Where they're going to go?
Right.
They're not going to go anywhere. You got your 16 right there.
Right. Yeah. And then this whole thing that, and, just kind of talking about the whole thing with Utah, and you've got all that kind of, and it's some fans. I don't see this coming from administration and stuff because they got to see what the writing on the wall is too. We can all see it. The other part of it is that you had Kliavkoff. They had an exclusive window to negotiate their contract, and they couldn't get one done. And then you've got, even because of that, Yormark steps in, and in 3 months he did what Kliavkoff couldn't do in a year and a half, and got a deal done.
Isn't that amazing? It's crazy, isn't it?
Oh, dude,
they got to go up first.
He's playing chess, and this guy's playing checkers, man. That's all there is to it. And the thing that's amazed me the most is because of that, and we were talking about this on Twitter yesterday. You have that prorated clause that goes into it. So any expansion needs to be Power 5, or else ESPN and definitely not Fox, but ESPN isn't going to pay. So you're not even going to be able to give them anything unless you come out of your own pocket. I can tell you, and everybody in here will probably tell you, that the rest of these dudes, the rest of these conference folks, they're not going to give up their money. We'll have Couz in here in a few minutes. He's a West Virginia guy. They don't want to give up $1. So they're not going to cut from their own pie to bring in somebody like Fresno State or San Diego State or anything. And they keep saying that, and it's just all that is just a simple it's his smoke screen that he's thrown out there. But he's got actual journalists out there, like he's got actual journalists over there that are spitting all this crap out there and putting it out there for the masses. And Twitter was going crazy with it the last 2 days. I mean, you got that's what they're resorting to, is just straight BS, which is, it's just funny to me. And that Yormark's sitting over there laughing about it because he knows, like you said yesterday, he's just going to wait for the car crash to happen and then let him come on over.
Right. That's all they got to do. I mean, at this point in time, Brett Yormark has set the board to the point where he has to make no more moves. And he just has to wait for the Pac-12 to implode. I mean, these guys have nowhere to go. They've played themselves into a corner. You got no TV deal. Okay. Right. You got a deal on the table that looks like it's going to be just all streaming, which is a no-go for Oregon and Washington, because you're not going to get eyeballs of people who are going to go to Apple TV.
They won't
sign off. You have to get a green rights.
Everybody has to sign off on it. There's no 2 ways around it. And just like this, we as good. Thank you, Norwooding. This is the kind of just to talk about that a little bit. Facts right there. Apple TV, I guess, is in there talking to them. And first off, there's a couple of things about that I saw in that report. But well, I'll just go ahead and let me share this with you guys, and we'll just read it. Let's see. Share screen. So, as you can see, guys, it's let me take this. Dang it. All right, so Apple TV is in talks apparently with the Big 12, or I'm sorry, the Pac-12. And as it's talking about here, they're a potential landing spot for Pac-12 football. So Apple TV is emerging as a potential landing spot with ESPN, Amazon Prime Video, and Fox Sports lukewarm around on the league. Um, Apple could end up being the platform for the Pac-12. It's funny about it. I mean, they're not climbing on it, but let's see. The service is about to start a 10-year, $2.5 billion agreement with MLS. So what they're trying to do is basically, um, I guess, test it out on it or whatever. Obviously, Amazon was already trying to do this, and they were talking about this the last couple of days. Of they want to do like a 1 game a week deal where they can put on not even tier one stuff, but everything that I keep hearing too is that ESPN is like, we don't want tier one. We've got enough of it. They have the ACC, they obviously have the SEC, and now they have the Big 12. They just really don't have much of an appetite for all that stuff. It says the Big Ten. Let's see, that's left the final Power Five conference, Pac-12, without a TV partner. Its current deal with ESPN and Fox Sports runs out next year. If Apple were to make an agreement with the Pac-12, the streaming service would presumably produce more than just football. But Apple can be very persnickety. You love that word in contract negotiations, which was one of the reasons of a much talked agreement with the NFL for its Sunday ticket never happened. For the Pac-12, reaching a deal may not be easy, but it is a possible solution. So, see, they're assuming, though, the thing is that they're assuming that they're just going to be okay with that, and they're not. Because if they're, I mean, what's the difference in Apple and Amazon? You know what I mean? In fact, Amazon's done more of this kind of stuff on live streams.
Oh,
So
and Amazon has way more subscribers too.
Right. Yeah, to me, it's not even it wouldn't even be a question. So the whole deal on the thing isn't good anyway because of the fact that you've got just like you said, it's a no-go for these guys. They're flat saying no about it. And I don't know. So folks, let us know what you think about this. And don't forget to make sure you hit that like button. We're going to talk a little bit of OU stuff here in just a little bit as well, but I really wanted to get into this. It's kind of funny the way all this is kind of going, but really it's the weird thing. And from the angle of, most of my audience were Oklahoma folks. Thanks for showing up in here. James, Norwooding, Chicken 1515, and Kim. We appreciate you guys joining us again tonight. Bobby, my boy, he's back in here along with BV. Look, one of the deals that from the OU perspective is, and I was talking about that a little bit before. You had Bob Bowlesby, and this guy was he was a train wreck too, and it was one of them deals where even after the whole deal with the Longhorn Network, which is what started sending people out of the Big 12, and they got rid of the last commissioner, which that guy was a knucklehead. But at no point did Bowlesby go in, that when they lost the last two, they never replaced him. And then he was doing stupid. It was just all reactionary, and it was even when they didn't you had Baylor and TCU that they were tied for the conference championship, and they weren't having a conference championship at that time because they didn't have two full divisions. It didn't work itself out, and they missed a playoff for it. You could pretty much tell that was the end of the road. Once Texas and Oklahoma decided to leave, then he pulls in those other four schools to try to save the thing. But had it not been for them hiring Yormark, they needed to fire him, because had it not been for hiring Yormark, there's no way any of this would have happened. In view of the fact, especially that he's out there screaming and sending cease and desist letters to ESPN, which is their major freaking money side of the whole deal. It was already their TV partner, and he's out there talking crap. So they had to get rid of him. That's just, but as I said before, Kliavkoff, they could have invited those teams in. You had Oklahoma State, TCU, Baylor, I think Texas Tech. They were all trying to go to the Pac-12. They all looked down their nose at it. So, and then they screw up they didn't get a deal done before. And I think they were at around 30 million then, and they said no to it, and they didn't never come to a deal. Well, now Fox and CBS are out of it. You've got, even TBS doesn't want anything to do with it in the Pac-12, and then you have the schools saying, we're not going to do an all streaming deal. And yet here they are continuing you're out there talking to Apple instead of trying to figure out a way to get somebody else involved. because right now, the only thing that's left is just these streaming services. But if as long as ESPN doesn't have to do anything, they have all the leverage. Why would they make them? Why would they change anything?
Exactly. Like, and that's another thing that people are missing too. The folks who are being delusional about the Pac-12. Why does ESPN have to come off the number that they're giving the Pac-12? There's nobody else on linear TV they have to negotiate against. Like, they're the only game in town for the Pac-12. If you want to get on TV, you have to go through ESPN at this point in time. All the national broadcast networks, they got Big Ten. Big Ten is now saturated the market between Fox, right, NBC, CBS now. I mean, think about that. CBS is taking the Big Ten over to SEC now. SEC got to go to ESPN. Crazy. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I
that's
mean,
the wild
they
thing.
wiped it out.
Fox kind of pulled that off on its own, they were trying to cut ESPN out, and they did. But, Bobby talking about this here, this is great. Apple TV has 25 million subscribers. There's over 200 million on Amazon Prime, and they're talking about doing a deal there. Yeah, absolutely. That just goes to show you that he's going over to talk to these guys at Apple when they're already saying no to Amazon, who has way more subscribers. How's this ever going to work? It's just one stupid decision after the next. And literally it got to the point. I bet old George still checks his MySpace. His chicken says, "Hey, that's awesome." Hey, and that I got to tell you, that's why it's come to the point now where he's, Canzano and those guys are actually out there reporting some of this crap that he's saying, like. And this was the other part of it, that the Big 12 is talking to Fresno State. There ain't no way that they're talking to Fresno State.
No, not a chance.
There's no way they're talking to them. And it's not because Fresno State has a terrible football program. They don't. It's actually better than some of the ones they've brought in. But that has nothing to do with it. Right now, the fact is they can't pay. ESPN is not going to pay for you to get a group of 5 team. It's just not going to happen. And believe me, the conference is not going to come off of what their payment is right now. They're not going to do it either. So,
right.
I
mean, San Diego State and SMU does not move the TV media rights needle, period. No. They're just trying to add content to add more games.
And this SDSU part of it, they're talking about them moving into the Pac-12 now. Apparently yesterday, I'm hearing that right now they have a deal. It's nothing in writing yet, but the verbal, they invited them, and that SDSU has been trying to get in the Pac-10, Pac-12 for 50 years, and they've never wanted anything to do with them. And apparently, from what I hear, Stanford and Cal are not okay with it. But even if they do that, what is that? That's your replacement. You're going to get SMU and SDSU and replace USC and UCLA.
Impossible.
What are you doing? But him throwing that out there, it was coming from Kliavkoff and his mouthpieces. You got John Wilner and John Canzano. They're out there reporting it. It literally got all over. It was getting reported all the way to the New York Post and stuff like that because of these two dudes. And they're literally, it's not true. It didn't happen because the only chat they might have been having, I guess Fresno has an equestrian program that they compete with in the Big 12 with. That's it. But they're not an athletic. They're not one of the athletic schools or whatever in the division. So it's silly talk. But they wouldn't do it because of the fact that they would have to pay out of the rest of the school's earnings, their future earnings, and they're not going to do that. If they're going to do that, they are going to do it with like Villanova and Gonzaga because they're basketball schools only. That would be a little bit different. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you want to go and you want to get those top two because that's, you already have the best basketball conference in the country. That would definitely add to it. And they've been talking about UConn too. But I feel like there's something else that they're trying to backdoor that with Amazon as well, that they could do a deal with them on that deal. If they were...
I'll tell you what, the Big East schools, they got a pretty good thing going with the basketball too. So, if they're joining for basketball only, I'm not sure if that raises their revenue a whole lot just joining basketball only. I almost see Villanova and UConn staying pat in the Big East. Gonzaga, though, I definitely see them joining the Big 12. I mean, that'd be a monster move for them.
Well, they've
Basketball
already turned
wise.
down the Pac-12. Apparently, I know the Pac-12 was trying to jump in the way of that, and they've turned them down already.
Yeah.
They're not interested. Chicken 1515 gave us a tip here, and he says, "Y'all have 5:38 to go. You're driving from Kentucky, right?" I'm not gonna probably make it 5, but but we'll go for a little while.
Right. She could put this on replay.
But definitely, yeah. And so Discovery Warner, yeah, that's the whole thing. Is I feel like okay, so he says, James says, we all know where this ends. Discovery Warner. They'll air alongside the DCU lineup and go equally unwatched. Yeah,
Right.
I got it. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's the whole thing is, yeah, and like Cyclone Steve is saying, who's really going to sign up to Apple TV just for PAC games? People with lots of income, i.e. people who already have Apple TV, those subscribers. Right, because it already costs a lot anyway. I don't know what it would be. I think that they were talking about a flat fee in that story. But the thing about it is, if you're going to do that, it wouldn't really, I don't know. If you're going to do it, why would you not do it with Amazon when you already have that many people that are already part of it? So looks like we lost him again. Pluto TV. You got Pluto. Oh yeah, you're on your way to Chicago. Well, thanks so much for the tip, man. We appreciate that. You doing that for us, and we'll talk for a little while, anyways. Yeah, I don't really see any of this going on. Pluto TV. Yeah, I guess they could, but that's again, it's all streaming. And if you're gonna do that, you probably want to do it with when they were talking about part of the big issue for Oregon and Washington was that it's not a reliable form of streaming. You have a lot of issues with it and stuff like that. I don't know about Apple, but I know even with a lot of people have issues with Amazon or whatever. I haven't really had any issues with Amazon, but if anybody's going to do it well, it'd be them. They've already been doing the NFL games on Thursday night for the last few years. They've got it figured out. But if they're not okay with that, why would they go to another one that isn't ready? And we keep dropping you here. What's going on? Are you good on your web?
My internet, yeah, I should.
Okay, it keeps dropping.
Be okay. I'm.
You got a
not sure what's going on with it.
Right?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's in Utah. I think Utah got the snowstorm. Ohio. Well, I'm in Ohio. That's where I'm from, Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we keep losing them. Well, anyway, folks. I mean, I don't know. To me, the guy is grasping at straws at this point. When you start talking about George Kliavkoff, and he just keeps on. He's going so crazy, grasping at straws that it's turned into. It's now turned into. Now we're telling lies and putting out propaganda out there and just throwing everybody off. It was hilarious to me the other night that I'm sitting there watching all this stuff. Yeah, just heard from your buddy. Said Nickelodeon is hosting the PAC.
Nickelodeon. slime time.
Yeah, and it's so crazy. But it's like I said, he's gotten to the point now that he's out there putting out propaganda, and literally with actual reporters. I've known Wilner Canzano as columnist for a long time, but I know Canzano he was hanging around with them. They just got a picture of him at a game the other night where they're sitting around at one of the basketball games. So I don't know what's going to end up happening, but if you've even got some of these guys that are like completely, they can't even, they're not even telling the truth anymore. I mean, good grief, man. But if that's what you're resorting to, that Brett Yormark has literally just destroyed this guy. He's got him. And that's why he can sit back and just do whatever he's got to do. It took him, this guy's doing everything wrong for a year and a half. And him just being as good as he is, but because it should be the Big 12 that's going. It should be the Big 12 that's falling aside. But it should be the Big 12, but it's not. And now the Pac-12 is dead in the water. What do you guys think about the Big 12 teams, about, if they were to allow, say, Oregon and Washington to come in with a potential out? What would you guys think about that for you folks in the comment section? Would that bother you, them allowing them to come in and then allowing them to get out as well, to the Big Ten when they do? To me, I'll just tell you what I think. I feel like you do what you got to do. And I feel like you bring in those two teams. Those are, because right now you're losing relevancy when OU and Texas leave. You're losing it. So Cyclone Steve says no. Why no though? Tell me no. Tell me why though.
Yeah,
I think that
I don't see why you tell them no. Yeah, I don't know if you necessarily need to. I think you want to though, because you want to kill the competition at this point.
Right.
So I think you bring them in and give them a short-term deal, because at the end of the day, all the Big 12 needs is the fourth time zone. You just don't want anybody in the fourth time zone, like San Diego State, Fresno State, UNLV, like even UNLV, like they're Mountain West. You don't need them. You just want the time zone.
And they're terrible too. They don't draw
and they're
anything.
Terrible.
Yeah, they don't draw anything. I mean, I've been living in Vegas for a long time, and they just do not draw. Even having Raider Stadium and all that stuff now, they're not going to draw anything. I don't want to bring in a new out that are always causing problems. A new OU Texas is what you're saying. Always looking for a way out, not voting for the betterment of the conference. Well, it seems to me like you would definitely, I mean, obviously Yormark's going to put in stipulations of how that's going to work out, but they would never, first off, and don't throw OU into that part. Texas, yes, I get it. They were the ones that started all this Longhorn Network stuff, and that's what kind of, but you got to remember that Dan Beebe knew about that from day one, never said a word about it that entire time until the deal's already done, and that's what allowed that to happen. OU didn't have nothing to do with that, but OU's been trying to get out of the conference since then, and has, at least twice since Bob Bowlesby was commissioner. And so that whole deal at the end where they were saying he was blindsided by it, he was not. He was not.
Right. They could have went to the Pac-12, right? They had an opportunity to go west.
They were trying to go to the Pac-12 two different times. Now, the second time, it was with Texas, and the Pac-12 wasn't having it because of the Longhorn Network. I would rather undermine the Pac inviting Washington State, Oregon State to the conference than get the Pacific time zone. Yeah, I don't know that you. Okay, so where do they move the needle though, Cyclone Steve? That's the problem with that. I get what you're saying, that you're worried about these guys leaving, but what I'm going to tell you is that with Oregon, not Oregon State, with Oregon, you get the Nike deal, and that helps the conference. The other thing that you get with Washington is you get Seattle. That is one of the bigger, markets in the country. You had, even to just do it, if it was only for 7 years or whatever, or however long it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the deal is 6 years. So if they were to come in, let's say when the contract ended in 2024, that'll give you 5 years. And then even if you had them for like 2-3 years, say Big Ten wants to come call on 3 years into the deal, let them out. That's fine, because everybody else is going to come with them.
I think that you at least want them to stay to at least 3 or 4 years. It's actually going to be 6 years, starting in 2020. Actually, it's going to start in 2024 for both of them. So these are 7-year deals at that point. So they would have the entirety of that. You could have them say, come in and stay for 4 years. That's going to build you up. It's definitely going to kill off the rest of the Pac-12. It seems that both the Big 12 and Pac-12 are so fragile it may break down to 2 super conferences. And that's the point I'm trying to make, Kim. What you want to do is build up enough revenue and here's the thing. What if you get Washington and Oregon to come in along with those 4 corner schools, and now you've got a really nice conference? You've got 18, 20 teams now that you are literally, I mean, because if you add those teams, that's better than having just Oklahoma and Texas. Now you have teams that were already in a major conference. I feel like with Kenny Dillingham, you're getting a better coach than what a lot of people think you are at Arizona State. You've got Coach Prime coming in with Colorado. Kyle Whittingham is literally, to me, He's one of the top 2 or 3, 4 coaches in the country, period. And he does it with a lot of
Hey,
3-star guys.
Utah's the back-to-back Pac-12 champion. So right now they're
Right.
the kingpins.
They are. But of course, Salt Lake doesn't have a huge following as far as like their media stuff. But what I would tell you is that if you can strengthen the Big 12 this way, and even if it was just for 3 or 4 years, if you strengthen them that way, it's not going to hurt nothing. And here's the thing. If you get Oregon and Washington to come in and they enjoy being in this conference, who's to say they are even going to want to go? Because you might even strengthen the conference to the point that you can compete money-wise. And that's what it's all about. You need to get this thing to where these guys, instead of 40 million or whatever, 31 million is the base number. They're still going to get close to 50. The base number in the SEC is like 70 something, yeah, but money didn't help Nebraska and Missouri. They haven't gotten that big money yet, though. That's the whole thing about that. But the money that you would build that up with, if you bring these schools in, you can build up and compete with them, because you're going to have to be able, for the kids, you've got to be able to be on TV, number one, but number two, you got to have all the stuff that they're getting if they go to a Big Ten program, as far as facilities are concerned, NIL stuff. Florida has just made a big move on what they're allowing with the NIL. They're going to start allowing coaches to help them, decide on their NIL and whatever. And so, which I knew was coming out on that.
Well, too. Here's another thing too. Nebraska and Missouri, they're not Oregon and Washington. Like, they're not built the same. Like, Oregon and Washington are national brands that have, Washington's been to the college football playoffs. Oregon got Nike money. They've been in the national championship game when the first playoff hit. Both those teams have been there.
Right.
If you can make a play for them, you got to.
I'm going to bring in Couz real quick here too, because I'm sure he'll have quite a bit to say on this. Couz, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Thanks, brother. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Hey, Couz, I'm a big fan. Couz. I just want you to know.
Thank you, man.
This is our boy T. Graxton. He has the Long Shot with the Graxtons podcast as well. They do a lot of sports gambling, stuff like that. Okay. So he's definitely I've been enjoying his show a lot lately. But we've just been talking about kind of some of the stuff that's been going on with all this stuff with the realignment, stuff like that. And like Couz, to me, he's the guy that he has a lot of this info. So tell us about kind of what you're thinking as far as where this is coming. Let's see. I would take them in. Their piece of the pie would be very small, or their out fee would be substantial. Yeah, I agree with that, Bob. So essentially, what were the question that I had asked the group? I was asking, what do you guys think about? Let's see if I can get this to move. I was asking them what they thought about allowing Washington and Oregon to come in with an out clause where they can go ahead and go to the Big Ten. My contention was this, and I was going to wait and see what you had to say about it. I was going to throw it to you, but the question would be, what does that mean for you? Would you allow that to come in, or would you want the conference to allow that to strengthen it a little bit and basically kill off the Pac-12?
I have no issue with it, with that piece of it, but I'm also hearing rumors that they would have a larger share. That I don't agree with.
Yeah, and a lot of this, I mean, obviously we don't know what's being said behind closed doors, and I don't know that the first dude that I was hearing, I don't know who he is, the guy that started reporting that the other day. Mm-hmm. Who is that guy? He has a weird handle on there.
The MHVER3? Yes.
Yeah, who is that guy?
I don't know. He's a West Virginia fan.
Okay.
And he lives in West Virginia, but nobody knows who he is. He doesn't put only thing he puts on his Twitter is that and where he's from. That's it. There's no bio, no anything.
Right.
Or at least nothing in his bio that tells you who he is. He claims that he has sources.
See, but that doesn't mean anything to me. If you don't have a name, I don't care who you. I don't know about that. The only reason that I feel like it's an actual possibility. Now, what he said when he wasn't putting anything down as like who was saying what or anything like that. The only thing that I'm saying is with all of this, we were talking about this earlier. You've got all this propaganda machine coming out. You've even Wilner and Canzano's out there telling a bunch of BS. There's no way they're after Fresno State. There's no way. I just don't see that happening. Because as a West Virginia fan, do you think West Virginia, and you're a West Virginia content guy, do you think that West Virginia is going to be willing to take from their piece of the pie because it's a group of 5 that they're allowing in there? There ain't no way.
No.
Yeah.
No way. I hope they don't.
There's no way they would. And so, and especially when you've got the Pac-12 on the verge of, all you got to do is kick them off the cliff now. And then you've got all the schools that, right there to choose from. Mm-hmm. To me, I would grab as many as I could. Go ahead and get the 4 corners, but I would add Oregon and Washington. Let them get out and make there be a buyout. But I'm sure that they don't want a huge buyout or whatever, and you're going to have some concessions to get them to come in. But my point was, the stronger you can make this conference, even in the short term, the better that it's going to work out.
Oh, yeah.
How many networks will actually compare to keep other conferences viable?
Yeah.
That's the whole point, is that if you make ESPN happy by bringing those ones in, I feel like that's the power right there. Even if you're just doing it for a little while, you're gonna beef up the conference. And as an OU fan, I don't have to care about this. I mean, they're going to the SEC,
right?
But to me, I mean, I've covered the Big 12 for almost 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
I know this conference in and out. But to me, I would rather see the Pac-12 die in the wind with the way that they're talking to everybody. You've got the Utah fans even are going crazy.
Utah fans are on another level, man.
It's so crazy too. It's like, dude, you guys have been a freaking Power 5 school for freaking 11 minutes. 11 years. But, it's like, dude, stop acting like you're a blue blood. You're not.
UCF fans are turning into the same thing.
Yeah.
UCF fans are talking crap the day that the schedule came out. I'm like, dude, you haven't even played a game in a Power 5 conference yet, and you're already talking smack. Shut up.
Smack, too. Yeah. Hey, folks, Chicken, thanks so much for this.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm in Cincinnati, and the reality is Cincinnati better get ready, because they've been playing the AAC and they've had a good run, no question about it. But the Big 12 is a whole nother level. I mean, they got Texas, Oklahoma on the schedule coming this year with a first-year coach who really didn't do anything in Louisville. I mean, they're trying to just get bowl eligible. Keep your head down and just win your 6 games and get to a bowl and just continue to build your program. Because you come in there and you don't have your head on the swivel, you might get cracked by Oklahoma State. Baylor ain't playing with you. Kansas State's not playing with you. Like, it's a tough game every week in the Big 12, especially for the newcomers. So, UCF fans, you got to be careful. BYU, better be careful. Houston, be careful, because you can get embarrassed on any given Saturday.
Oh yeah, and I think that a lot of these schools, they're going to see that, is even with, like we were just talking about earlier, with Satterfield. I don't think that was the greatest hire for Cincinnati.
Terrible hire.
I think it was a bad hire. But the thing is that, you want to, Cyclone C said if the PAC deal is low, I was going to talk off this. So you're saying Washington State, Oregon State would take a 6-year contract at $20 million with a full share coming in 2031. Once that happens, Arizona State and Arizona would as well. No current member has to take a cut. No current member is going to have to take a cut now.
Right.
That's the whole thing. It's like, if you wait for Power 5 programs, if you don't go and do something silly, which Yormark's not going to go, and that's why I knew that was a bunch of crap about the Fresno State deal, because he's not going to do that. He's not going to do it. So to me, it was, if you're waiting, you wouldn't even see them have to give up any of their shares if you're going to get Pac-12 schools, because they're already from Power 5 conferences. And I also feel like right now, no, Fox is not involved in the prorated. They didn't agree to it. But if you're bringing them value, they're going to want they were going to want to get in on it too.
Yeah.
So they would probably kick up into that and get them into a full deal. Here's the deal. You can play hardball with them if you want to. But to me, I would give them some concessions just to get them in for a while. And I would start for sure with those 4. Except for if you have an opportunity to get Oregon and Washington, I think you need to do it. Couz, tell me what you think on that.
Now, Couz, I'm
Number
sorry,
one.
I want to jump in real quick. I want to ask.
Oh, you keep losing him. Tell me what you think, Couz. He can jump in a second.
Yeah.
A million
number one.
viewers.
We lost you there for a second, man. Let me go ahead and ask. We lost him again. Yeah, go ahead.
If we can get Oregon and Washington, it's a home run. Number one.
Right.
I would take Oregon and Washington over anybody right now.
Right.
You know, West Virginia flying to Oregon doesn't excite me, but having Oregon on the schedule excites me. That would be, I mean, Oregon. I look at Oregon as one of the top brands in America. Okay,
it's absolutely one of the top brands in America.
And for Big 12 fans to say they don't want Oregon in our conference, and which I haven't heard that many say that, but there's a few.
No.
You're on crack, man. Oregon is a freaking. They're not a blue blood program, but they are. They're one of the top, and they're one of the top.
They're recruiting in the top 10 every year.
Yeah, and when you look at TV numbers, they're better than any school left in the Big 12, including my own. Okay, so is Washington. I've done videos about this stuff. I've studied these TV numbers and stuff till I'm blue in the face.
Yeah,
Washington and Oregon get better TV viewership than any school in the Big 12 right now. Any of them. That includes Oklahoma State. That includes West Virginia. That includes Texas Tech, which are the top three in that conference.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get them in there if you can. But I don't think you should give them a greater share, because if you do that, it's going to cause turmoil within the conference.
Now that I agree with. You don't want. I didn't say give them a greater share. That I didn't say. What I was saying was what you want to do is that you want to bring them in, let them be in for maybe for a full share. Is would you have them let them have that out clause? Because of everything that people are pissy about, it's that they're worried about them getting that out clause and being able to come in and like, yeah, I don't really have an issue with it either. If and again, my team isn't staying in this conference, so I don't have any reason to really care about it. Right, what I would tell you is that
you're a college football fan though, so that's why you
absolutely.
care.
And I want to see what I want to see is I've covered this conference for a long time too.
Right.
You know, I don't hate every school in the conference. In fact, I don't hate any of them, but except for Okie Light, you know. You know, Okie Light in Texas. But the thing is that like, to me, you strengthen this conference and because it's been on the verge of death. And while you have a guy like Yormark, because we talked about Bowles being how awful he was, Dan Beebe was just as bad, if not worse. He's the one that allowed all this to go into motion. Right now, you have a rock star sitting there. He can turn this conference into something. I mean, the dude's been freaking planning world tours and stuff for Jay-Z and Beyonce for all this. This guy is the real deal. And he isn't beholden to any of the other conference commissioners around the country. He doesn't have anything that he has to do favors for him or nothing. This dude has got real power. He can position the Big 12 in a way that they'll live from here on out. Because otherwise, that, you know, we're talking about that Big 2 deal, that could definitely happen sooner than later.
Yeah.
But that's why I feel like you do need to go ahead and step in right now with the Big 10 not having a commissioner and the president's not wanting to expand. What I would be doing is go ahead and get them to come in, make them stay for 3 or 4 years though, before you're going to let them out, and then boost I would boost it up that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd have no issue with that. What were you going to ask earlier?
Go ahead.
My question was just simply about if they do come in demanding more money. I mean, at this point in time, why not? I mean, I understand they're on a sinking ship, but like you said earlier, Oregon's a big brand. Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on how much they want. I mean, if they're asking outrageous numbers, of course not. But if we're talking about a few more million to kick in, and we both know that, well, everybody knows that Oregon and Washington, these fan bases are drawing $1 million each on the eyeballs. I mean, it brings even more exposure on the West Coast. I mean, Four Corners, yeah, but then you got the whole Pacific West Coast, and even if you get them for 2-3 years, you could build a fan base in the corner of the United States for just those few years. And let's remember this too: there's no guarantee that Big Ten is going to call them. You know,
that's fair.
There's no guarantee.
But here's the thing, and so that's why I wouldn't go doing that. And here's the problem, because and this is as somebody who's covered this conference, when you start thinking about the everything that has destroyed this conference up until this point, that I mean literally it could have been over with now, was because of unequal revenue because of the Longhorn Network. Okay. That's what has hurt the Big 12 all this time. So if you start doing that, that's going to exactly either it's got to be even. This is exactly what Chicken, you're right. It's got to be even because of the fact that all you will have is a bunch more of this stuff. And if it's even, plus if it's not even and you're giving them an out clause or whatever, there's no way that that's going to be okay with this conference. There's no way. They wouldn't even vote that in. I guarantee you they won't vote that in. And they have to all be, just like the Pac-12, they're all going to have to be in agreement on that. They won't allow it. And I wouldn't allow it either. I think that what you want to definitely do, I wouldn't give unequal revenue. Not at all. Because of the fact that, listen, what are they going to do? Otherwise, they're on a sinking ship. And they're all streaming is the best that they can come up with. So that's what they don't want to do. I would not give them, I don't even know if you give them equal revenue right away. Yes, exactly. Uneven revenue helped kill the past Big 12. That is exactly right. It did kill it. And now obviously Texas is on its way out but they had to agree to get rid of the Longhorn Network to go to the SEC also. So, that's good. And that's a good thing, but stability and killing the Pac. Yeah, that's not, I wouldn't give. Yeah, but not the first. Okay. Or an out clause does the second, but not the first. Yeah. Listen, I just feel like that's a slippery slope that you can't go down. I just don't think you can. Couz, are you in agreement there?
You mean as far as the greater shares?
The uneven shares. And
I'll be honest with you, bringing the four corner schools doesn't even excite me that much. I'll be straight up with you.
I agree.
None of them.
I did want Utah until their fans were jerks. I don't want them anymore.
What about Colorado though?
Colorado only excites me now because of Coach Prime. That's okay. A little enticing. And as a content creator, it would be great for me. Dang a lie.
Listen, you've got to think about this. And here's the thing. When you've got a guy that's come from show business and professional sports, obviously with that, can you imagine him and what he could do in the conference with a guy like Coach Prime? You have a superstar there.
Mm-hmm. Must see TV.
Almost it's a lot of the same stuff that you're going to get. You watch and wait. They're going to have their ratings are going to be through the freaking roof. People were streaming Jackson State games for the last 3 years.
Yeah, they were selling out their stadium every week. Man.
I mean, they were putting them on ESPN. That's for HBCU to be on ESPN without like it being the Celebration Bowl, unheard of.
Yeah,
it is unheard of, and that's the whole point. Is that you have to look at it in terms of, I don't know. I mean, basketball wise, for sure, it's going to help for the Four Corners, the Arizona schools. Obviously, Colorado and Utah don't move the needle there, but they would move the needle. You got Bobby Hurley coaching at Arizona State; they got a lot better. I still feel like, and I don't know what they're doing on this Gonzaga stuff or whatever, but I don't think it hurts. The main thing is I feel like the more Power 5 schools you bring into it, and maybe you have more teams in your league than what the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10 have. I feel like that strengthens you moving forward because not everybody's going to be able to just jump ship and go to the SEC or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, the next teams up will probably go be the ACC, and they got till 2036 to even make that move.
Yeah, but that 2036, that's not a real number anymore. It's not.
You don't think that's going to hold?
That's not going to hold. No way.
I think
because they would weaken them to the point that they wouldn't be able to do anything. And that can't happen. ESPN's not going to allow that to happen. It's their freaking conference.
I think it'll hold until maybe 2030, 2031, and then you'll start seeing it unravel.
It's over with by then.
You'll start seeing
by the time the next round of realignment starts.
Yeah, they're not going to be over with. Florida State and Clemson's going to get tired of sitting back and letting South Carolina and Miami, or not Miami, but these other schools, Florida, whoever you name them,
get that far ahead of them in TV revenue and also being able to build and buy players. Yeah, if Clemson starts losing to South Carolina on a yearly basis, or like as far as like in like their recruiting numbers and stuff like that, it's going to drive them crazy. There's no way that they allow that.
UCF's going to be making as much TV money as Florida State.
Ain't that crazy?
Think about that. You think they're happy about that?
No way.
Dude, the egos of these university presidents and these ADs. Their egos are like freaking gigantic, man.
They are,
and even them, it's the boards.
Right.
And the donors and the people.
Oh, the donors,
guys have egos bigger
alumni.
than Texas.
You know how alumni are, man. They're crazy.
Oh, yeah.
They're crazy at every school. But you start talking about some of these blue blood types like Florida States and Florida and stuff like that, and like Clemson. I don't know if you've ever been to Clemson, but it's. I mean, you want to talk about that's pretty cultish there too, man. It's they don't mess around, and it means something to them to be able to be where they're at. Kim, you were asking, is the ACC in the same shape as the Pac-12? They're not. It's not helping them this deal because it's so low. The money starts coming up at the latter end of it. But what I was saying is, there's no way that that deal stays in shape by the time that you get to this next round, like in 2031, because everybody's syncing it up for that 7-year period. I feel like that's when you're going to start seeing, because of the fact that ESPN could strengthen their schedules or their who they have by allowing the Clemsons and Florida States. I don't think Florida State is ever going to go to the SEC, but I do know that you could see them going to the Big Ten or something like that. But and I still feel like Carolina and Duke are more Big Ten than they are SEC also. Yeah. That's my feeling on it. But
I don't know that Florida would ever let them in, just to be frank with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Michigan.
Florida would ever vote. Of course, Texas A&M voted to let Texas in, and I never thought that would happen either. So
they voted against it. They were the one that voted against it. They didn't care.
Right?
They didn't care. SEC didn't care what they thought.
I'm a Michigan State grad, so I'm a Big Ten dude. I live in Cincinnati. That's why I care about the Big 12. And like Couz, you indicated earlier, we're all college football fans. But I mean, at this point in time, with the Big 10, now they're already out west with USC and UCLA. So like now for them, it'll make more sense to go south than maybe go west again. That's why I'm saying Oregon and Washington ain't necessarily guaranteed to be in that Big 10 next round, because you might be looking at trying to get Miami, Florida State, or North Carolina.
But that would only be in the case that you've built that conference up to where they can demand the same kind of money as Big 10 SEC. We're talking, there's a difference right now of what, $60 million between the Big 10 and even the Big 12. If you start looking at, it's $50 to $60 million when this new thing starts. It's not going to take long for them to leave these other conferences behind, right?
Right.
And now most of it's backloaded. The deal is backloaded, but still, I'm just saying, I feel like the whole deal with they're going to have to do this and do it quickly, because unless you can strengthen this thing like that, and by having somebody, a marquee school like Oregon and Washington and stuff like that, then you're not going to be able to demand that kind of money and keep it together.
Right.
But that's why they're not going to allow that ACC deal to stand. It's not.
Well, to Kim's point, where she asked about who was in a better position, the ACC or the Pac-12, whether they were in the same type of boat, they're not, because ACC at least got stability.
Right. The ACC has the ESPN. They're still going to continue. They're not going to run their own product into the ground by taking away they have to put them on. If they don't do their side of it, then they can break the deal and go wherever they want to. Yeah, they're going to prop up their own schools. No doubt about it. No doubt about that. So, yeah, it's the problem with the ACC deal is the length of it. That's the whole thing that's been bad for them. I don't even know. I never understood why they did that. Couz, what was your feeling on that? Why they did that deal?
Based on what I've heard, it was to give them time to get the ACC network off the ground and get it profitable and all that deal. It was all revolving around the ACC network, is what I read. But
right.
That's just based on what I read in articles and.
Yeah, but even that's the whole thing, is that the Pac-12, their little network and stuff, that's been one of the you get this bad production value, and it's hurting them all. And I mean, like even Texas fans hate the Longhorn network now. You know what I mean? So I don't know what's up with the ACC network or whatever that is now, because I hadn't watched it in so long. But here's the deal.
I mean, I got Spectrum. I mean, we don't even get the Pac-12 network. You can't even order it.
Oh, really?
you can't even get it. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Oh, chicken's in Ohio now. Welcome to Ohio, chicken.
Yeah. Hey, be careful on that drive. Keep your eyes on the road there, chicken. All right. So what is the next step? Somebody just said they think by the Pac-12 tournament, that's going to be when this all goes. What are your thoughts on that, Couz? When do you think this is going to happen? Do you feel like because myself, I think that all this smoke eventually, and they haven't even announced this yet. As much as I keep hearing that San Diego State is in the Pac-12 fold, they haven't announced it, and so they're not getting a deal. Is this coming together soon, or is it? What do you think?
2 articles came out today that are tied into this. And you may have seen them already. One was John Wilner wrote an article. He I guess talked to the president at Washington State, who say who matter of fact, I'm gonna pull it up and just read you what they said. Not the whole thing, because I don't.
Okay, go ahead. No, that's all right.
But the gist of it is, let me find it here. The Pac-12's pursuit of media rights contract, which began more than 8 months ago in the middle of a rolling summer, is close to being resolved, according to a university president who sits on the Pac-12 board of directors. It's Kirk Schultz from Washington State, and he says basically mid-March is when they're looking at getting it done.
Within a couple of weeks, yeah. Okay.
And he's saying that yes, there's some trepidation, but nobody's panicking and nobody's planning to leave.
Yeah, of course that's what they're saying though. They don't want them to talk about anything that's negative at all.
Right.
Well, Washington State's going to say that. I mean, where does Washington? What options do Washington State have?
Their next choice is the mountain. They're going to go to the
right.
Mountain
West. I mean, they're going to pay the. I mean, think about it. He couldn't get Oregon or Washington's people on the phone and do an interview. He got Washington State's people on the phone. They want to hold this together.
I've had Softy on yesterday from Washington State. Sikkim 365 had him on yesterday from Washington, from UW. I'm sorry, from UW.
Oh yeah.
He's a Seattle guy. So, and he was talking about it, and basically, I mean, he was bashing SMU a little bit there towards the end of that interview and stuff, and which that's not in alignment. But he doesn't work at the school. He's a newspaper guy or a radio guy. Anyway,
he's a media guy, yeah.
Yeah, he's a media guy though, so he doesn't have to shut up for the Pac-12. But he was saying that they would leave tomorrow to go to the Big Ten, but he also feels like they would leave to go to the Big 12 because rather than do this streaming deal, and that was what I took from it.
Yeah,
I don't see this coming. I mean, their deal may be done around that time, and they don't have trepidation, but they listen. That might be those 2 schools up there are like, hey, we don't care unless they can get. I've heard a lot of people saying bring Washington State, Oregon State. I don't think that that's the play. I don't. They do not move the needle.
It's Washington, Oregon,
and nobody cares about the Apple Cup. Nobody cares about the freaking whatever they call the game between Oregon State and Oregon. Nobody cares about that stuff.
If you can get all 4 of them, I'd be okay with it. But only if I can get Washington and Oregon with the deal, I'll take them. But
right.
Because the Seattle market wouldn't be bad to get, and now you get that with Washington. But if you get them both, you get basically the whole Seattle market, right? That's because there are some Washington State fans in
Seattle though. It's not. I mean, Washington State's up in Pullman, man. That's a ways.
I know, but there are a lot of WSU grads and fans in Seattle.
I'm sure. Yeah. Listen, I mean, I'm just saying. But that's going to move the needle for a week or two, unless they're really good. You know what I mean? Nobody cares. Nobody's going to care about them playing. Nobody's going to care about Washington State playing Texas Tech.
No.
You know what I mean? Nobody's going to care about that. So, I mean, to me, I would feel like at least the 4 corner schools are regional. And then when you get Colorado, they're a former Big 12 school, and you've got Coach Prime. Utah is there. They have one of the best coaches in the country. Yeah, I feel like
they're a good program.
They're an absolutely good.
Yes,
program.
they are. I mean, BYU, Utah. You get the Holy War. Yeah, I mean, I'm in Ohio. I'm watching BYU, Utah.
Oh yeah, I would too. I would too. It's a big game. And now I think that a lot of this stuff that you're getting, I think a lot of the stuff that you're getting from Utah, this craziness that they're throwing out their fans, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the last time that these 2 schools were in the same conference, I mean, at that point, Utah was winning 1 out of 10, and that was about it. It's not the same anymore, obviously, but I think that the concern there is that, okay, well, if they're recruiting with us because of the fact that they've been independent and we've been able to jump ahead, would they catch up and pass us again? Mm-hmm. A lot of people still feel like BYU is the big brother in that. So that could be a part of all that, what's going on. And they're the ones that are holding on the tightest to the Pac-12 for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that that's coming from I've heard it from the AD though, even on so
Yeah,
they're
the
not
newness hasn't worn off yet for them. I mean, they're still new to the conference essentially.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they don't.
Yeah, the AD, he looked at that tweet. He said, "We're not leaving." When John Kurtz put up the TV numbers for the championship games.
Yeah, he's a fool. That dude's a nutbag. If you're not leaving, then you can stay. Okay, buddy.
Right.
Laura, I would take the 4 from Oregon and Washington and the 2 from Arizona. And you're not going to go after Utah and Colorado to strengthen. Listen, I get it, but you're going to tell me that you wouldn't want to bring Colorado back into it. You would rather have the Arizona schools and you would rather have Washington State and Oregon State than Colorado and Utah. I would hope that they wouldn't do something silly like that. I just got to say I get it that the fans you're going to see them every 2 years. You know, if they do that 3-6 or whatever, like what they're doing in the SEC, you're going to see them every couple of years or 4 years, or they'll be in town with you. I mean, you have to think of it in terms of strengthening this conference. And that's the only thing that's why I wanted to talk about it. Looked at what numbers? What numbers are we talking?
I would rather have, I think Oregon and Washington's a must. If you can get them, you get them. If you wanted to get 2 more, I think it's Colorado and Utah. I think again that Holy War is serious. That's a national game right there.
Well, and then, I'm going to tell you now, BYU is going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem in this.
Give them a couple years. They're going to be serious.
Yeah. What numbers are you talking about, Laura? What numbers are you asking me here? Because what I'm telling you is the numbers that you're going to get on ratings are not, or they're definitely going to be higher for Coach Prime's teams and Utah's teams. Utah is the back-to-back Pac-12 champions.
Right. They've been on the Rose Bowl twice. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
People are already watching them. Only time I watched Utah in the last 2 years has been the Rose Bowl against Ohio State, which was an instant classic, and then when they just played USC and beat them. And I mean, they beat USC down. That was serious.
I was in on that. Yeah, look, you okay. So Curtis says you have to take the 4 corner schools and Washington, Oregon, if possible. That would be, and it would be a great conference. Then that's the whole thing. If you add 6 teams. Now you're at what? Well, you'd be at 20 teams.
You'd be 18.
18 teams. 18
well, you have because Oregon or Oklahoma, Texas is leaving, so they're going to be leaving out the door.
But you'd be at 18. Yeah, and then you could definitely take the other ones if you get to 18 and you want to get it to 20. Fine. My thought is that you for sure would want to get those 6 first, and I mean the preferred ones before anybody to me would be, well, it'd be Washington, Oregon. I would go with them first, but knowing that they're probably going to want to get out, my next choices would be Colorado and Utah. That would be the ones that I want to see go, because of the fact that there are still a lot of Colorado grads that are still alumni in Texas. That's going to help, and having Coach Prime in your conference doesn't hurt it. It doesn't hurt it. I mean, look at Kliavkoff was trying to use him coming as we've been waiting on him for this TV deal. That was such a BS deal.
Like he knew that was happening.
Right? Yeah, crazy. Wasn't it?
His whole little deal.
Did you see where Did you see where he basically got caught lying about the merger talk? He's
been lying about it all the time. But go ahead.
Yeah, he reached out. He came out and said, they would never. They didn't want to merge with the Big 12.
Oh no, they've been saying that for a year, right?
Yeah, and then they do somebody in the media through an FOIA request got some emails where he had actually emailed to the presidents saying they were going to meet with the Big 12 and nothing was off the table. What's that tell you?
So he wasn't talking. I don't think they're talking. Do you?
Now?
Yeah.
I don't know that they are now, but this was back when all this first happened, when the USC UCLA news first broke.
Yeah. Oh, well, they were still turning their nose up at everything, right? And the funny thing about that is that the conference presidents that were saying no to the Big 12 teams that they were trying to bring in, it was USC that was the major one that was saying, nuh-uh, we don't want them.
Right.
It was USC that did that. And then they bolt within a year. You know what I mean?
Ain't that cold? That's cold blooded, ain't it?
That's about how they roll, though, dude. That's about how they roll.
Hey, it's every man for himself.
And it is. But here's the thing: is like it's almost like the whole deal with Bob Bowlesby is that you keep having opportunities to get out of your own way, and he's never. And if you are, well, look at okay, so if you're Kliavkoff, you got to have more backbone than that, because look at how many people were calling Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC dead early. You know, as far as getting out early, they were all saying that's over, that's over, that's over. I knew that wasn't over because Yormark was going to make it happen. He was going to go work, right? And he was smart. Let's get this crap out of the way. We get money out of them. If they stay until 2025, we're lucky if you get the 99-year deal money, right? If they don't, we're going to get money out of them. So he made that happen. And on top of that, now you get to stop thinking about that and focus on let's build this conference up how we want to get it done. That's not the same dude that they got out there in freaking Pac-12 country.
Right.
This dude is a knucklehead, man. He hadn't gotten anything right. You know what I mean? And he doesn't have any backbone with these. I mean, if you're Brett Yormark and you're in charge of the Pac-12 right now, you're over there telling Oregon, you know what? I don't care if you like it. You're going to agree to it because, well, it would have never got to this point. But he's the kind of guy that's going to go make a deal happen. You know? It would have never got to that point.
Hey, yo, Brett Yormark's a boss. He's a boss.
Yeah. Man, if he can go and tell if he can tell Beyonce what to do, he can probably go and talk to your freaking conference or your university president. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, come on.
Yeah, you run a Rock Nation. You a boss.
Yeah, I don't think you want Stanford and Cal at all.
I can answer that.
Hell nah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you don't want
to beat me to it. You just beat me to it. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah,
but hell nah.
You don't want them. And here's why you don't. It's because they're the ones they're part of the biggest thing of where all this the smart schools out there, for as smart as they are, they're pretty dumb when it comes to this stuff. They haven't made a smart move yet. But
have you seen Cal basketball?
Oh, they're god awful, and Stanford's being god awful at everything too. They're all shitty, so it's just none of it matters. And they're not moving the needle either, and that's the whole thing. When you start talking about sports, you need something. You want the teams that are going to get ratings that people are going to want to watch. That's what sells advertising.
Right.
It doesn't matter about how smart they are or any of that kind of stuff. None of that matters. Yeah, I would completely leave that one alone. I don't even know that I would offer them to come. I wouldn't want them at all. Let them go to the Big Ten. Let them go to the Big Ten, and they can, all sit out there and, drink their coffee like this and eat their, you know what I mean? Let them do all that stuff.
They love to talk about how they AAU and got the research money. Let them go independent.
Come on.
Figure it out.
And there's AAU schools all over the country. That don't have shit to do with the athletic conferences. That whole thought pattern that got started with the Big Ten last year was stupid from day one. I never understood that, and I don't know why I ever bought into it for as long as I did. But one of the guys that I was watching the other day was like, "Yeah, I don't know that one thing has anything to do with the other," and I was like, "Why would it?" So I don't think that that's the case. And their research money and all that kind of stuff, it's just not going to come. It's even if you were to go get Stanford and Cal, which they're not, because they wouldn't go. It wouldn't help your research, and because Big 12 schools are different schools. The research they're talking about, that's not what Texas Tech is about, right, Laura? What is Texas Tech about? They've got their own little stuff when you talk about West Virginia, you were talking about, they want to let everybody into school, right? Mm-hmm. And why? What is it? What is the school intended for? What's their main thing that, I'm living in Vegas. It's hospitality. That's what UNLV is about. It's not going to ever be up there in the high end of, your medical school. You don't want to go to UNLV med school.
Right.
You want to go. I think, want to go to Stanford or something like that. Right?
West Virginia is like Michigan State. We're land grants. So it's about letting everybody in who want to just get an opportunity to hustle and make their life better.
Right. And so that's
not Stanford or Cal,
That doesn't mean that you're not smart if you go to that freaking school.
Right.
And that they're not, just because they're not doing a shit ton of research like that and doing $200 million a year, We're an outlaw school, Laura. Yeah, okay. I covered tech for a long time, so I know better. No, but no, just that's what I'm saying. The whole deal is this constant looking down your nose and doing this blue blood thing versus we're up here and you're up here, and I know that that's turned off a lot of these folks in the Big 12 because there's some country folks. We're in smaller communities that are about different things. You start thinking about West Virginia. West Virginia fits the Big 12 very well.
I think so too,
it fits the Big 12. Aside from the fact that it's so far away,
right?
But when you start looking at places like Lawrence, Kansas, and Manhattan, Kansas, these are small communities, in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Even Waco and stuff like that in Texas. They fit together. Now, is Washington and Oregon going to fit? Oregon fits because Eugene's out in the middle of freaking nowhere. I don't know if you've ever been there before. It's out in the middle of freaking nowhere. UW is just outside of Seattle, but it's outside of town though. And that's a cool place. That's a cool place. But
you say live in Vegas?
I don't live there right now. I've been living there for the last 15 years, but I've been in New Mexico lately I came down to do some family stuff here. So
okay, because
I've been living in Vegas for like 15 years though. My son's still there,
bro.
I love Vegas, bro. Love it.
It's awesome. Awesome city.
I'd like to visit Vegas twice a year, but my wife, she's not. She likes it, but she doesn't want to go that often.
Yeah, I'll be back there before too long, I think.
I love it.
Everyone in Cali has already moved to Texas and Oklahoma. That's happening a lot, huh, Kim? Yeah, it's kind of. What was that was going on in Austin the other night where they were freaking crazy going crazy in the cars and like shooting off fire. It was the cop. I saw these guys in the middle of an intersection. They had traffic stopped and they were burning stuff down and like doing all these stuff. I saw it on Twitter. It was wild. Yeah. And listen, you're right. Washington State, some of them, they're going to be more alike that they would fit into the Big 12 a little bit. I get that, but I still feel like so would Oregon. To silence them on the field. CKS, here you go. And aren't you a Utah fan?
That's what he said.
Yeah.
We're scared of them.
CKS, they're scared of them? Yeah, come on, man. That's not true. They're not scared of nobody, man. They've been playing all these guys for a while. Austin they're good.
Utah's a good program, man. There's no doubt about it.
But why would you be afraid? Here's the thing, is that they've been going up against good teams too. The Big 12 is not an easy conference. It's not. And it's the fact that you have those defections. You've had these other programs that have stepped into that role. Baylor's been real. Look at TCU. I don't know how much I believe that they can continue that. But I know Sonny's a good coach, and they're definitely going to get a recruiting boost off of that.
They already have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
They've landed some really big.
You get to the national championship game. You're a superstar. You go to the national title game. You beat Michigan. Nobody gave him a chance against Michigan.
They lost Lincoln's brother as OC, but they got Kendall Briles, and Kendall's the real deal. It's not going to be long till he's a head coach because he's gotten it done.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different story. half of their fan base was upset about them hiring him.
Oh, I know that. Yeah, because of all the stuff that happened down at Baylor, and they were. Because they hate Baylor. That's the other part.
That's
TCU
probably more
freaking hate each other. Yeah. Oh, and that was at that time. That was when TCU had just come into the conference, and they were up for going to the playoff. They screwed them out of that playoff. Here's my girl Adela. Hey Adela, how are you?
That was Bowlesby's fault.
That was Bowlesby's fault. It looks all this stuff has been, man. I'm telling you, yeah, Baby Briles was good. He was. They all been good.
And Kansas State's been good.
Yeah, Kansas State's good. They've got a really good coaching staff there. Kansas is not chump change anymore. They're not. I'm telling you right now, the year coming up right now, Kansas is not on the bottom. Okie Light is probably on the bottom now.
Hey, Gundy's got to be on the hot seat. Gundy's got to be on the hot seat.
I put us on the bottom right now.
Do you know how many they lost though?
They lost a lot. I know they
lost a lot.
But I still think we can say what we want about Mike Gundy, but he's a good coach, and I think he'll. I don't think they'll finish on the bottom. They might finish middle of the pack, but I don't think they'll finish on the bottom.
I don't think they're going to. It's going to be the newbies. Anybody, Couz. I'm telling you, they lost their top 5 of their top 6 receivers. They lost their best running back. They lost their quarterback. You know, I mean, and they lost a bunch of guys off of the defense. I don't see how you can replace that, even with their. I mean, what they brought in that freaking guy that was at Michigan, and then he went to Tech, and he didn't do anything in Tech. What's going on in Stillwater? They're crazy.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Cincinnati might be on.
And what about the whole thing about them? If this is assuming this is true, Spencer Sanders wanting to come back, and they told him no.
They did tell him no. That's the whole thing. Is they told him. I don't understand why you would do that, but that's what they did.
That's just going to make it harder for you to get guys in the future.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. Well, and who they should have gotten rid of should have been that offensive coordinator, because apparently you're asking what's going on, Laura. I'll tell you is that there's been a lot of those guys that left off of the offense. There's been and I was trying to get Cody to come on tonight, but there's been a lot of accusations of the offensive coordinator being like verbally abusive to these players. That's why they're all leaving, and nothing happened. You know, and yeah, Gundy doesn't want to play the NIL game either. He doesn't like the transfer portal. You know what, bro? You got to figure it out. That's the whole thing, is that the game passes these guys by, and it's passed him by. He's been okay with mediocrity for a long time. You're right, Couz, about the fact that he has been the guy that do more with less, and more with less than what Oklahoma gets. But it's a built-in excuse that he's used to look better. And now all of a sudden he's fallen in love with that. And so they're recruiting terribly. I think they finished 70th in recruiting. You know, there's no way you should do that. 1 year removed from almost being in the playoff. There's no way that should happen. You know, I'll tell you what, Laura, the guy that I like the most right now that of the new guys is your guy out there, Joey McGuire. That dude is getting it done. You know, I felt like, you know, they kind of caught a couple of breaks here and there during the season, but they also had a couple that it didn't go. Yeah, I know everybody thinks it's crazy. Oh, he's about to put a smackdown on the Big 12. I don't think that's crazy at all, bro. I don't think that's crazy at all, Kim. Here's the thing. I'm not ready to drink that Kool-Aid just yet, because I want to make sure that they get it done first. But I do know
Venables need a bounce back. Venables need a bounce back in a big way.
Look, top 4 recruiting. They've got a lot of. I mean, something that we've talked about a lot in here on this channel is that these guys that have brought in defensive players that like you've never seen at Oklahoma in one recruiting class, you know. And they had guys from last year. They were top team recruiting last year and got a lot of good defensive players that are coming into it now. They did well in the portal. They were still in the top 15 on offense last year. It literally 5 games were losses by 1 score, and 4 of them were by 3 points. So it was a 6-win game, 6-win team. They could have won 10 easily. You know, they didn't. So as an Oklahoma guy, you want to see them prove it for sure, but you wouldn't expect for them to. I mean, look, and as when you get beat up and you take the hits like what they were taking this past year from everybody, you know, when you get beat like that by Texas, yeah, I think they're gonna. I think Kim, I think you're right. They're gonna come out with an attitude, and they're gonna want to beat on some people. And Okie Light is gonna really take it on the chin for all the
Oklahoma's gonna be fine long term. I don't know that they're I don't expect them to win the Big 12 this year necessarily, but I think they'll be fine.
Who's gonna beat them though? I mean, who do you really think at this point?
I'm going to wait.
I think Texas should be. Texas should be the class, but there again, it's Texas.
They should have been the
exactly.
Last decade,
Until you put one together, you always recruit well.
Yeah,
you know they always recruit well. So until you actually do it,
you know Baylor's losing some key pieces. TCU's losing a lot of key pieces.
They are. They lost everybody pretty much. Those are all super senior guys.
Kansas State's probably going to be good again. They are losing Deuce Vaughn, who was 80% of their offense, but
Deuce was a bad dude, man.
But they've got Will Howard coming back, you know, so they've got some key pieces coming back. I think Kansas State will be good again. I think Texas Tech will be better. Baylor will be a tough out still.
I think so. I think that the Baylor, what you worry about with them is their quarterback. He was terrible, man. That guy was terrible, and I think he's still the guy in the way. So
Blake Shapen.
I mean, he had good games, but he just, to me, I didn't think it was going to go well.
Yeah.
How do you think you're doing on your road trip to BYU? That's going to be the tough one, Laura. I think that's the hardest game that they got this season is the BYU trip. Cincinnati could be a tough place to play. I don't know. I haven't ever been there and seen a game there. What do you think about that one?
Hey, the city's really hyped about them going to the Big 12. They've been selling out for the last 3-4 years now. I expect to be sold out again. Last time they did play Oklahoma was a few years back. They played down at the Bengals Stadium, Paul Brown Stadium. So they might go downtown if they don't play it on campus. Usually they'll be on campus in Nippert, but if they go downtown, expect it to be a big deal.
Oh, do you think that they might have them play in the Bengals Stadium?
They might. They've done it before. They've done that before. The last time they played Oklahoma on the schedule, they went down to Paul Brown Stadium. But Nippert's loud. Nippert seats about 35,000 now. They got renovated. When it sells out, it's loud. It's going to be a tough place to play.
Loud places are tough, and like I tell you from being at I've been to Mountaineer Stadium in West Virginia before, and of course that was I didn't get to go watch Oklahoma there, but they were rowdy. That place gets wild, and I know it got like that whenever you guys were playing Oklahoma. And Kim, you're right. Texas and BYU, yes, you're correct. They'll be their toughest two games, I feel like. But I was just saying because of those road trips. But honestly, their schedule sets up well. Texas leads the state twice next year, this season coming up, and Oklahoma only leads Oklahoma 3 times. And I mean, obviously going on the 2 road trips because the game with Texas is in Dallas, but that's Oklahoma South, so it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
I mean, Oklahoma has a legit shot, in my opinion, to make the college football playoff this year. I really do. When you look at their schedule.
I think that they should win minimum 9 games. I do.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that, I think that most people would be upset if they don't.
9 is kind of just in my head, thinking about what their schedule looked like off the top of my head. I think 9 games is probably where I would put them at right now. Yeah. I think they may lose to Texas, and they'll probably drop one somewhere. Along the way to somebody, maybe Kansas State or Texas Tech.
Kansas State. They don't play Kansas State. That's
okay. That's right.
That's not a bad thing. They've lost like 3 or 4. They've lost like 3 or 4 to K-State. But then the TCU game, we don't know what they're going to look like. They don't play.
What about Baylor? They don't play Baylor. Okay.
Play Baylor. They don't have to play Baylor. They're getting 3.
It sounds like they should kind of run the table a little bit.
Tech. They don't have to play Tech, and Tech is also. Joey's doing such a good job in the recruiting. He's the top 25. It's the highest recruiting rank of the recruiting class I think Tech's ever had, including when Leach was there. So I feel like they don't have an excuse to not win 9, really, to be honest with you, as long as because they still could have done that last year, even with one of the worst defenses in the country. They've loaded up on defense. There's a couple of those freshmen that I expect to do a little better than some people will.
The way it sounded, it sounded like Oklahoma should be in the Big 12 title game. I mean, that should be the expectation. They should finish top 2.
I think, I mean, so what? I mean, they don't have to. I don't think they play Houston. They don't play Tech. I think that Tech is going to be a tough out for a lot of people this season. I think that Baylor will obviously be a tough out, but I also feel like Kansas State, I think that there are some good teams, and the way that it's setting up with having 14 teams, not everybody's playing each other. We're going to find out what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. You could see Texas and Oklahoma. I think that here's the other thing though about it. And I'm going to say this, there's a lot last season between Texas and Oklahoma. They had their opponents had a total of 4 holding calls. 4 between Oklahoma had 1 holding call against an opponent the entire year. I've never even heard of such a thing. Texas had 3. There was some bad officiating, and I just don't know that they're going to allow these guys to win the thing on the way out. I just don't know that they're going to do it. I'm not trying to like conspiracy theory anybody out of anything. And one thing I will say about Texas Tech, the Texas Tech game, everybody that I've heard that was in that stadium thought that field goal was good at the end, that they called not good, and they didn't have a camera angle of it up like anywhere else would have up the pole. It looked good. It looked good whenever I was watching the game, but I could see that it may have hooked after it. I'm not saying that's necessarily it, but when there was one holding call against an opponent, I don't know. We were joking about it last week, me and Coach, and I said, I don't know, man. I see Xavier Worthy running down the sideline to get to the Big 12 championship game, and a ref tackles him. So I don't know, man. I just I don't know if they're going to allow it to happen, because there is so many hurt feelings, out there about all this stuff, and particularly when you start talking about Texas, man, nobody's sad to see them go. I know that, and they're probably not sad to see Oklahoma go either. But I know that one thing is that the officiating was bad at times. You can't tell me that a lot of these teams weren't. I can't remember a game up until last year that you didn't see a bunch of holding calls. I know Oklahoma got holding calls all year.
Yeah, they didn't call a whole lot against, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, but they didn't call a lot of holding calls against West Virginia's opponents either. Matter of fact, Dante Steele's our All-American candidate defensive lineman. I think he only had one holding call against him called all season.
Wow.
And a guy that good's getting held a lot.
Yeah, of course they are. And that's what I'm saying is like,
they're not calling it.
I mean, yeah. And for the little amount that they were getting like pressure on the quarterback, so they're getting some holds. They had a couple of good guys along the defensive line, and we weren't great on the defensive line because of what Lincoln left. And so that could be part, but one all season, that just doesn't compute with me. That won the entirety of the time. I think there were at least 3 or 4 before the conference started. Before conference play started. So
I was wanting to do a video about calling out Oklahoma and Texas fans for whining and crying about penalties and for their scheduling of the 11 a.m. games.
Yeah.
And when I got into doing the research, I'm like, holy crap, they're right. You played 7 11 a.m. games last year.
All of them were. Yeah, they did it all the time.
It's 6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7. I think the only one. Yeah, and even the Red River game, they're doing that, and they do that a lot for the Red River game because of Fox. That's their noon time.
Yeah, they don't want to. The SC's got that 3:30 slot, and they don't want to compete against them.
And I get that, but I got to tell you, and apparently the first year that they played in the SEC, they're going to play it at that 2:30 spot, so they're happy about that.
Now Texas only played in that slot twice, I think, so they don't really have a complaint, but. Mm-hmm. You guys played in it 6 or 7 times. So
yeah,
I get it.
No. And that was part of the thing that they were upset about.
He might get eaten alive.
A long time. Yeah, that was what were you saying?
No, I was saying Sarkisian better get it together this year, because going into that SEC, if he don't have a good year this year, I can see him getting let go.
Oh yeah, they will. I'm surprised they didn't they should have gotten into the conference championship game last year.
But you don't want to go into the SEC with a new coach, man.
And I agree with that. And plus, they just got Arch Manning. So here's the thing: if he doesn't resist putting Arch in, because if they go out there, they're going to probably lose that Alabama game, right? They're going to Alabama, although new quarterback, new system, or not a new system, but a new quarterback and new offensive coordinator. But I feel like, you could see them by the Oklahoma game, right? Having 2 or 3 losses, and they're screaming for Arch Manning now. And they shouldn't do it, but that might be the one thing that saves him is if he doesn't do that. Because if he does and they still don't win, they'll fire him. Hey man, I don't know. I think that Sark is terrible. I don't think he's good. I think he's a 500 coach. He's always been a 500 coach. That you are what your record says you are. He was a 500 coach at Washington. He was a 500 coach at USC, and he's a 500 coach at Texas. That's just what he is.
Yeah.
So I just don't see that really changing a whole lot. Now, Christian and those guys would tell you different, but I don't see him as different than that. West Virginia going to be an unknown team. They could be really good or the same as last year. I could tell you that guy that went in at quarterback and ended up beating Oklahoma. He looked good to me. I don't know why he wasn't playing more.
I got a hunch he'll end up being the starter next year.
He should be, right? Or he should be, right?
Well, I mean, Green's good too, but he's more of a runner.
He just had moxie, man. That kid had some moxie. He just wasn't, he went in there and just played.
Yeah, Green. Which one are you talking about?
The kid that came in against Oklahoma.
Markio?
Yeah.
Or no, never mind. No. I'm thinking about Oklahoma State. Yeah, Garrett Green is who you're talking about. Garrett
Green, yeah. That's what I was saying. He was good, man.
Yeah. He but I'm not sure Markio might end up beating him out. I don't know. Markio's pretty good too. He's the one that played against Oklahoma State and beat them.
Okay.
But I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see. I think we should have a good battle in the spring ball to see who wins the job. Either way, it'll be the first time since Geno Smith was our quarterback that we've had a kid recruited out of high school to start a game for us.
Wow, really?
Yep. Every quarterback between Geno Smith and now has been a transfer.
Transfer guy, huh?
Will Greer was a transfer. Skylar Howard was a transfer.
I remember that. Didn't he come from Will? Where did Greer come from? Wasn't it
Florida?
Florida. Okay.
Of course.
Oh, Kenny Trickett. I remember him.
What's that?
Too. He was good. Trickett was good.
He was good. Very underrated, man.
Mm-hmm. Greer was good though too. That was towards the end of when they finally got old boy out of there. But they had some solid teams the last few years.
Our offense was fantastic. We just couldn't stop anybody. It was our problem.
That's the same problem that Oklahoma's had for freaking 15 years. So
there was West Virginia Oklahoma game used to be in the 50s, man.
Oh yeah, 100 points a game, man. 100 points a game. That Kyler Murray out there, that Kyler Murray game against Will Greer was insane. Insane.
Video
game.
You had to score 50
because of a referee talking about Big 12 officiating. We were driving down the field for the winning or go ahead score in the closing minutes of the game. Mm-hmm. Our wide receiver was blocking a defensive back for Oklahoma, blocked him out of bounds.
Yeah.
And didn't stop, and they caught a flag.
I remember that.
And Dana Holgorsen, I mean, he blew
a gasket, didn't he?
I mean, but he was right. How often did you see that call?
I agree with that. Yeah, it was a stupid
call.
And the thing was that like,
and it may not change the outcome, but it would at least give us a better shot.
Yeah. Lynn, hoping Iowa State can win some close games. Yeah, look, their defense is so good, man. Their defense at Iowa State is so good. I guess I would ask you, what's the deal with I mean, are they going to keep him? What's the coach's name? Why am I forgetting his name? Campbell. Yeah, Matt. I love Matt. I love the name. I love watching him lose his shit on the sideline because Matt will lose his shit. But are they going to keep him around much longer if they don't win some games? Because I don't know that they will.
Well,
of course, they were really bad before he got there, so I don't know why
he has a long leash because he's resurrected that program out of the dead. Yeah. So
I think that yeah. Well, and he had just to be fair, he had a reason to lose his shit in the Texas game. I mean, that was so bad. But he's a trip, man. Oh, Matt Campbell. I don't know. The problem is that they haven't won the games when they needed to, but they did get so close they got into the Big 12 championship game only a few years ago. Mm-hmm. They beat Iowa last year, so that's big.
That's huge in Iowa.
Dude. Oh, I don't think it's happened in like 15 years or something like that or more. It doesn't happen there ever. And it was at Iowa, I think. So, yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that they brought that coach back because they were really talking about not. So,
yeah. Anyway. Well, Ferris is on his way out the door too. I mean, they kept his son. They wanted to get rid of his son. He wouldn't do it, but they took the rolling years off his contract, the son, for the offensive coordinator, and now apparently he got a whole bunch of contractual stuff built in. He has to score so many points. I think he has to average like 30 points a game over the season, or they're going to fire him because they haven't put up no points.
Well, and apparently that's kind of what's going on in the whole deal with Okie Light too, because of this, all these guys leaving, they've been talking about that this could be, Cody Stovall says that it could be Gundy's last year if they don't win. If that's the case, they're not winning because they don't have anything. So it would be his last year. I don't think that that's the case. I just don't see them doing it.
I feel like he's on the hot seat. I felt like that last year. Like just the games they were losing.
It's not that he shouldn't be on the hot seat. It's that he ain't. It's because if you listen to those guys, like even on Twitter, and Cody's been holding Gundy's feet to the fire to the point that he's been trying to get his credentials taken away. It's not happening, but he's trying to. But those folks they literally believe that they can't do better. They're paying him $7.5 million. They can do better for $7.5. I mean, you know what I mean? It's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money for a Big 12 coach that hasn't won anything. He's got one freaking conference championship in 19 years. You know? He's beaten Oklahoma 3 times out of freaking 19 years. 3. If Oklahoma lost 2 games if a coach lost 2 games to Okie Light, his ass is gone. Believe that. You lose 2, get out. Unless it was way spread apart. You know what I mean? There's just no way they would allow that. No way. So, folks, I hope everybody's enjoying this. We just kind of got off on a few different tangents here, but we've been going for a long time. So I hope everybody's enjoying it. Please, please, please make sure that you hit that like button for us. There's so many that helps us so much going forward. Let me pop up our stuff here for just this. Nope. You can support the show, obviously, through the Cash App with tips at those. Obviously, it's just below here at HOF Pod. Make sure you get on there and check out some of the shirts and our podcast merch and everything like that. And then we also have our right here on my screen. You have the link for the Fanatics Partner Store. Anything that you get, you just got to hit that link and you can get up to 65% off everything in the store. We get a small commission for that. You're able to save a lot just for using the link. As I said, the podcast merch is cool. We've got a lot of the horns down stuff. I'm gonna throw them down all the time. I've got a few. Everybody nobody has a problem throwing horns down from here. So we'll do it all day. So check it. You got to check out the shirt, the 5 Bs of Oklahoma. I won't tell you what it is, but I think anybody who's an Oklahoma fan is going to love it. So get in there and check those out as well. And then again, if you want to support us with tips, we'd appreciate it. You definitely can support it for free just by hitting that like button and subscriptions. That helps. Like Couz will tell you, that is the biggest thing that we need as creators. It helps us so much. Is the more subscribers you have and the more likes that you get on the video. We've had a pretty nice we've had 34, 35 people in here all the night. We really appreciate that. We're really appreciating it. Chicken, hey, we got you through at least part of this thing. And Adele, I agree with them. Let them waste their money on Gundy. Look, I hope he stays forever. I've been saying that. I hope he stays forever because they'll keep losing. But I do think that maybe he is on the hot seat. I have a hard time believing it. That being said, guys, we appreciate everybody coming in. If there's anything else, I feel like definitely expect to see a lot more on this. I think that this whole realignment front is about to heat up. I think it's already heating up. And it's just a lot of smoke coming out of the Pac-12. That's a lot of BS stuff. So I feel like they're holding on for dear life. And I don't know how you feel like Apple is going to help this problem.
For an all-stream contract? I mean, all-stream? There's no way. They didn't even
want to do it with 200 million people that are Prime members. And they're going to do a deal for, 15 million Apple users? It's not going to happen. I don't see how that helps them at all.
Couz, how long you think George Kliavkoff has a job?
Hey, hold on. I got to watch a Pac-12 game. Hold on.
Exactly.
What was that question? I'm sorry.
How long you think George K keeps a job?
Oh,
I think he's dead.
I'd say he's
They're
dead.
not going to need him. They're not going to need a commissioner.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I think the conference is going to stick together, but I think they're going to make a really low amount. I think they're only going to make about $25 million a team. That's what I think ends up happening at the end of the day.
I think if they were able to pull two schools, it's over for sure. And I think especially if it's those 2 schools that are up north, then they're dead meat. But I feel like they're dead meat anyway. I think that what they're going to end up doing is rebranding a bunch of Mountain West schools. If it all falls the way it does, we're going to see a lot of that coming. But Couz, tell everybody how to get a hold of you there as well.
Yeah. You can get me out on YouTube at Couz's Corner, and it's COUZ''S Corner. Cover Big 12 football, a lot of West Virginia football. I've been doing a lot on conference realignment as well. It's hard not to if you're doing this. And then you can find me on Twitter at Couz206. I'm on Instagram at Couz's Corner 206. So yeah, I love
all the same there.
I love interacting with folks on there.
Cool. And then T, same thing for you, man. Let us know how to find your podcast and everything as well. I've got your Twitter handles on there.
Yeah, it's T Graxton. That's my name. My Twitter handle is at TLG Strategies. You can find my podcast, The Long Shot with the Graxtons, where we talk sports betting on all levels, college hoops, NBA, NFL. We're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Check us out.
Awesome. And you can find me at BirdieManDub on Twitter as well. Obviously, you're already on my channel, so if you haven't become a subscriber already, please do that. Jump over and check out both of these guys' shows. Couz, I'm on his show all the time. He's one of the best creators out there,
Thank you, man.
without a doubt. So make sure you get over there if you're not already a subscriber of Couz's Corner. It's not just West Virginia stuff. He's taking the lead on all this. That's why I wanted you on, was because he's taking the lead on all this conference realignment stuff. You even I know Golden Blue Dude does a ton of it, but that's what his.
Hey, he's hilarious. Go Blue Dude is hilarious, man.
Golden Blue Dude is a funny guy, man. I like him, man. But Couz is the man. He's getting a lot of good information out there all the time. So I hope everybody will get over there and check all that out. And the same with T. Hey, man, I listened to that one, and his gambling tips are on point. So if you like to sports gamble, you should definitely be getting on there with T. And again, check us out. I need to start getting more stuff on the actual audio things. But make sure that you're checking out all of ours. Hit the like button on your way out. And thanks a lot for coming out and seeing us, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for having me on, Jason.